Keep going.
Hang on, I'll do it on video.
All right. So we got Lloyd Bullard in the early 1970s, tasked with a better way to make a dock because crib docks are breaking apart and they're illegal by the DNR.
Well, they're discouraged because they changed the shoreline.
Yeah.
So anyway, then so Lloyd, as a welder, thought he had an idea that he could do a fold away or a tip up dock, in which you could pull your dock out of the shore on Pine Island or on anywhere remote. You didn't have to have a rollout dock. You could have a tip out dock. It involves an A-frame and a bunch of cable and an anchor point on the on shoreline that you would pull from. You could pull from a tree, but either way. And it took a few years, and then it became wildly popular in the 80s. And there's thousands of these docks have been put out, and they still, the original ones now are still in place. May need to be changed out in the near future, the original ones. But yeah, they have served, and one of the reasons that they are popular on Lake Vermilion and they wouldn't be popular on Crane Lake or other lakes is that our water level is a much more constant water level. So we can live with a 50-foot dock. We may have 5 feet of depth at the end of that dock in the spring, and we may end up in the end of the season at 4 foot or so, and it serves our purpose in terms of our boats and our boat lifts.
And is it called like the Lloyd Bullard? What is that?
Only by me.
No. By me too.
Bullard dock.
Yeah.
So the Bullard dock was a branded dock for a
No,
while.
it wasn't
No.
patent.
Never. Oh, it was never.
Never.
But tell them about Johnson or Dear Love had some engineering assistance.
Well, and so yeah, then you had a guy that was very handy. He loved to be in the shop and weld, and he then made dock ladders. And then if somebody came with an idea to have a boat ramp that you could then, like a miniature dock with rollers on it and feet that hung into the water, then you could have your little fishing boat pulled up on a ramp, and then another person would come and say, "Oh, I want a frame similar to your dock, but I clamp it onto my boat lift, and then I could lift out my boat lift." And he entertained all these people and went ahead and not a lot of them were popular, but he fabricated things as people wanted and enjoyed doing that and making money. And then but then there is he had the L, the flip over L, which is at the end of your dock you have a 6-foot section that then flips to the left or right, and then that made a 12-foot wide section at the end of your dock that you could enjoy more dock space. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's been, and it's really spurred a wonderful business of being able to service these docks and lift them out in the fall and put them in the spring. And that has...
and the owners don't have to futz with it.
And they don't have to, it is an expense, right? But yet you're not having to rebuild your dock.
Yeah, the ice would. You have to rebuild. Get down in the water and rebuild the timbers and such of those pier kind of. And what are they called? Cribs.
Crib docks, and those people who would be rebuilding crib docks are pretty much non-existent right now. That is not a job you want to do.
And it's not legal.
Not legal.
And it's not sustainable. You're always fucking with those docks.
Right.
So the Bullard,
and I can tell you, if that was our only option, I can tell you that pressure treated lumber would be going into these docks. Oh, those cribs, timbers, and or railroad ties or whatever. They used to use real logs, and so it's a good thing that went away. And so yeah, this has been a cottage industry that services.
And you saw it happen. I mean, if it was in the
I had
early
a-
70s, you would have literally saw all these things, all these cribs convert to the Bullard style.
And that's all I had when I was a kid. We had a 35 or 40 foot dock at one point that was crib. And then it got reduced to a 30 foot, and then it got reduced to a 25 foot, and then it got reduced to nothing because we put in a Bullard dock.
Do you
But
just bust it away and let it, or do you have to take all the
You
material
have to take it
out?
away, and I remember loading rock and my dad loading rock on
Loading freaking rock.
and getting rid of it, and
Where you would just like take it out and dump
take
it
it
in the
out and
middle of
dump
the,
it.
What government agency was dictating no more cribs at that time? Was it the
DNR, Minnesota DNR, yeah.
And you'll still see cribs around,
Yeah.
like the framework. On a clear day and low water and stuff, you'll see these squares, and they're still there. with
And a lot of the docks are, the crib docks are built over the existing. So if you go
Yep.
under a lift-out dock, you'll see the remnants of rock piles and but yeah, they were all, those old crib docks were all put in with big spikes. I mean,
Yep.
and they were pounded in with sledgehammers,
Exactly.
like railroad ties and
like
railroad.
from the top.
It was mining technology, like the same spikes and the same
The
gear.
timbers, the square timbers that they would use to
And
shore
that
up
was
the
like that
mines.
age. That was an era. That
I
was an
wonder-
era of building up
I
here.
wonder how much of this thinking came from the Corps of Engineers thinking of putting wing dams in the Mississippi River and things like that. It's the same technology of controlling a river, and the current is they put rock pilings, they put the crib.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
They basically do the same thing to create the
It
channel.
was the technology of the day.
Right.
But back to Lloyd Bullard. I just wanted to close with a quick thought on back to Lloyd Bullard on this. Is Terry, you worked with Lloyd for a season or two?
Oh, no, many. 10, 12, 14 years. I installed many docks with him. And how he would build them over by Moccasin Point, 40, 50 foot docks. And he had a pole barn and he had a ramp on his property that would go into the water. And we would get these, we would sideways 16-foot lund to the shoreline with a 25 horse motor, and he would then bring over a portion of the dock, drop it onto to that boat, and then we would float that out, and then we would bring another 16-foot lund in, and he would drop the other half of that on, and then we would fly across the lake, and he would say, "All right, Terry, all I want you to do is keep it at the same speed as me. Don't turn left or right, just keep it straight, and I will do the maneuvering."
With a 40, 50 foot dock between the two, one's on the stern, one's on the bow.
No, they're both on the bow.
They're both on
Or
the
we're
bow.
side by side.
It's like
Oh,
you-
you're side by
You
side.
created basically one of those. What are those
Yeah.
Hawaii boats? The catamaran. You created a catamaran.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And so, yeah, you don't want to do it on the 4th of July, but, you're, you're just, and then,
And you would do it on. He would pick I mean, you wouldn't want to do it with with any kind of waves out there.
no, yeah, little
Very,
waves.
very still days.
Yeah, no, I mean, we would tie it down. He had multiple hooks that we would chain and lash things down to.
You created one piece of machinery, one piece of boating with two engines. Basically, it was all
and
tied
like
together.
50 foot between them.
Yeah.
Jeez, that must have been crazy keeping pace and
Yeah.
getting that right.
Yeah, and it was,
And you did dozens like that.
probably a dozen. And I sold them all too. He loved me.
Oh, you were the salesman too?
Well, I had my customer base.
Yeah.
And so what happened back in the 90s is that second docks became super popular.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love a second dock, Terry. And so, boom. I mean, it was like shooting fish in a barrel.
Wow.
I mean, we just got
What
second
would
docks.
one of those cost? Installed, fabricated and installed.
Well, I think I ended up, I got a second dock eventually towards the end, and of course I probably got a good price. I think he was probably selling them for $3,500 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got mine for a lot less, but right after he stopped doing it, then 5,000 was full retail, and today it's 10,000.
Yeah. So if you want a dock, it's $10K.
It's 10.
And how much of that $10K is Lloyd Bullard technology or design?
Well, Lloyd went through first generation, second generation. Now I think third generation is 3.0 is slightly better than. I think Lloyd ended up with the fold-away A, and the dock posts were better placed. I can't remember what other innovations he had. The fold-away A, I think, was wonderful. That was at the end. So that means your A-frame is in your dock and not
all the
under
time.
the
You don't have
house.
to move it
You don't have to move it. It's
or
not,
store it.
store it. The first generation were badly placed dock legs. Not badly placed, but
Yeah, not optimally.
A
not
learning
optimal.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, and now they're optimal, and so I don't know. I think there really hasn't been a lot of innovation.
Is it mostly aluminum?
It's all steel.
Oh, it's all steel.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
aluminum hasn't come into the mix?
No.
Because it
And-
can't hold up to what?
correct.
Yeah,
Why, Terry?
aluminum's expensive. Aluminum. I mean, we still
So
have
light.
our docks are lasted since the 70s. I did work on a dock today that is shot. It's still will function for a few more years, but it's really bad condition. It's over on Grove Island, which is right off of Moccasin Point, and we actually have a bottom pipe that goes the length of the dock that is fractured and cracked. And I would suspect that was been one of the first 20 docks that Lloyd sold.
Wow.
That's my guess, because it's so. I mean, you can see his shop
Yeah.
from that dock,
Yeah.
and so anyway,
And my stove doesn't last 10 years.
and so
Your
yeah, you get
Kuma?
you get 40, 50 years, almost 50 years on a dock. So yeah, I guess to leave it with this is that we have rough water on Lake Vermilion, and if you have an aluminum rollout dock, you are not able to tie your boat to the dock and think anything is going to be. There's no.
It's just too light.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
if you go to sleep that night, your dock and your boat may be 3 neighbors down.
Wow.
Yeah, we need heavy duty on Lake Vermilion. Is
Yeah.
the bottom line,
That's
and
right.
and the ruggedness of our shoreline means we need an anchor point. Right, Terry.
And
That's
this
the
is
other
not
unique
Brainerd
feature.
Lakes where you can roll out all these docks. We have huge berms on our shore, and so we cannot. We can't just pull these docks out.
Oh, I see.
It's another constraint.
Yeah, the slope of like
And,
Brainerd.
and this is the spirit of innovation. I mean, you had Lloyd Bullard looking at all of these big constraints and coming up with a solution that is like, I mean, can you imagine coming up with a Lloyd Bullard dock in Brainerd? I mean, you'd be like, this thing is way overbuilt.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
sounds like it'd be
all
very
I need is to
over-
hook up my like lawnmower tractor to my rollaway dock in Brainerd, and I'm like, peedle along the sand, and life is over in October.
And they're not in big water, and
Yeah, but
And
this is the Lloyd Bullard dock system is a representation of the ruggedness of Lake Vermilion.
And-
So like Mille Lacs would use that maybe? I mean, what other lakes really?
They
do?
could. They could. I'm sure they have something similar. I know Crane Lake, or no, I'm not sure which lake it is, but it's one of the lakes near the border, has a wide fluctuation in water level. And they pound in huge pipe into the, I mean, they have like post pounders, and they pound these heavy pipe, like almost well casing, in, and they're structural, and then they loop a floating dock onto it. And so then it raises and lowers with the, and I think it's a good system. I don't know anything about it, how labor intensive it is. But
But you still got to pull it in winter.
yeah, you got to pull it.
Are you still on video, by the way?
I am.
I mean, what that file size must just be. You know, how do you work with it?